What's going on, Internet? How are you? This is the Fifth Down NFL newsletter. I am your host, Tony Tucker. We are 7 days away from Christmas. Today, we are going to be talking about the game of the week. We got a little twofer when we get to that part of the show. We're going to be talking our best bets. Lions-Bills fallout. Mike brought up a good point. Which one are we more worried about, injuries or defense there? And then the big move in the ATL. And Thursday Night Football, we're talking about our bolts there. But before we get into all of that, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, getting involved with us here at Fifth Down. We love talking football. I just want to bring this up to Mike, that the NFC North is going to set a record this year for the most wins by a division since the 2002. They changed the division to a 4-team format. I think they're currently at 38 right now. And with all of the divisional games they have left, there's a guaranteed 4 more wins. So then the only thing that needs to happen is like the Packers need to beat the Saints. Book that shit. That is happening. That is a guaranteed lock on Monday Night Football. And then I think like Vikings need to beat the Seahawks. Lions have a chance to beat somebody. They're going to go over that, and it's going to be like an average of 11 wins. And I was like, oh, man, this is really impressive. When was the last record? It was 2023. It was the AFC North last year. Well, when was it before that? 2022, the NFC East. There's a trend happening where each year a division rattles off a crazy amount of wins. And this year it's the NFC North. How you doing, Mike? Any thoughts on that?
I'm just marking that down in my notes real quick, Tony.
I knew it. I was like, I saw this last night as I was going to bed. Like, man,
you made it crazier with that last fun fact. You just made it even crazier.
Yeah, I was like,
every year the best division gets topped.
Yes, there you go.
Good one right there.
Mike's just finding ways to troll the internet. How are you, brother?
I already got it right there in my head. It's like, oh, it was this division. Like, oh, we have a new best division ever. It was the 2022 whatever. And then like, oh, wait. No, it's the 2023. No, oh, wait. Okay. Just keep it going. That's pretty crazy. And that's unexpected, honestly. I didn't expect the Vikings to be this good. And I did kind of see the Bears being a little bit overhyped in the offseason. We all kind of saw that coming just based off of being a rookie quarterback. Lots of questions in the coaching staff. The defense was up and down last year like it's been this year. But Minnesota's been the one that's really taken a step. I expected this to be between the Lions and the Packers.
So I did too. I had the Lions winning the division. But I'll say this. Like, if you really want to dive into this one, Mike, look at the fact it could have been 48 or 50 win division, right? Mm-hmm. If the Bears weren't losing on Hail Marys, getting field goals blocked, like the Bears probably are more like a 7 to 8 win team without some bad luck, bad coaching, like all that stuff that really pours into it. Are you ready to get into first down here where we talk about Thursday Night Football?
Let's do it.
That look says it all right there. We have the must-win AFC West game right here as the playoffs are on the line, playoff seeding is on the line, just like sort of divisional trash talk amongst fans on the internet, which I don't really engage in anyway, so I don't really give a shit. But it's all right there. Chargers on a 2-game losing streak, Broncos on a 4-game win streak. Chargers won the game earlier this year. They were up 23-0. Many fans would say, this guy included, Broncos scored 16 meaningless points in the fourth quarter of that football game to make it look respectable. But we have a short week, injured, beat-up teams, although the injury reports look pretty clean for the most part. In this game, I'm going to let Mike take it away first. We're both going to be at the game. Very excited about this one in LA.
Yeah, it should be probably another divisional war on Thursday night, Tony. It's just they keep giving us these week after week after week, and we keep seeing the same result week after week after week. You're going to get 2 teams that are beat up, both sides going at it. I mean, just a good example of the game that is going to be played on the field and what was played last week between the Rams and 49ers. Ladd McConkey going into the game with a knee and a shoulder. Pat Surtain going into the game with an ankle and a wrist and all these other. It's just like these are the two. This is the premier matchup of wide receiver versus cornerback. 2 your young up-and-coming stars in this league potentially, and they have to play each other beat up, bruised, barely able to run. And I hate it. And it's going to lead to a low-scoring defensive battle, which I like my Chargers in, especially with some of the injuries that the Broncos suffered in last week's game. Whether guys are going to be out there or not, they're going to be out there playing through injury. And I think the path to the Chargers finding success is getting this run game going, please, for the love of God, early on in the game, and beat up defense and let our defense go to work on their rookie quarterback again. Like we were talking about in the pre-show, Bo Nix has been far from perfect. A lot of good things out of him this year, but a lot of Ferris Bueller things, to quote their own freaking head coach as well. And that was no different last week. And the Broncos' big win to kind of ease the nerves a little bit on this game, because imagine the Broncos dropped the game to the Colts, and now the Broncos are coming off of a loss, playing for their playoff lives, thinking the Colts are chasing them down. The Colts are chasing the Chargers down as well now. Like, we got a little bit of a gap here for both teams where you're weighing the value of staying healthy and going all out, balls to the wall to get an extra seed.
Mike, I am so desperate for the run game of the Chargers to get going that I have hung like I'm trying to bring the energy with the number 30 jersey for Kamani Vidal, with the throwback Mike Pouncey jersey. Like, let's get the run game going. And it's not even that it needs to get going to where it's super effective. It's just it needs to be the focal point of what it is. So, like, not a ton of game plans. Even when you look at the entry reports, we know that these teams aren't getting to have, like, real full practices. It's a lot of walkthrough stuff. Game plan strategy can't really change that much. If that's the case, both of these teams looked really bad last week. Like, the Broncos probably shouldn't have won that game if Jonathan Taylor carries the ball into the end zone, if Adonai Mitchell doesn't search around for the laces on a football and throw a lollipop to Nick Bonita to take back to the house the other way.
Ed Reed, as he said. Ed Reed came out of nowhere.
I was going to turn to Ed Reed. It's like, dude, I that would have been an interception pick 6 at the Thanksgiving Turkey Bowl, bro. That was it was bad. It was just everything. So you got a short week. Let's go out there as Chargers, the fans, and lean on them left side. I know Zion might be up, but let's just run the ball left. Let's get behind Rashawn Slater and Jamari Sawyer. Hopefully they play him over any other options they may have. I'm not the person who likes to disparage, so I won't do that, but hopefully it's that way. Let's run the ball 40 times in this game and get the win, because neither of these teams really run the ball well. But I do think the team that has more success, because in the first game, part of the Chargers' road to victory was time of possession. They had the ball for 37 minutes in the first matchup, and they were able to convert on third downs over and over at a high rate. So they have to find a way to do that again. But if that's the Broncos that can find a way to get their run game going based on what they saw on film, the way Bucky Irving and the team that's losing in the second half is more committed to the run. How's that possible, Greg Roman? I don't even understand Jim Harbaugh. Like, I've been watching Jim Harbaugh coach teams for a really long time, and I do not understand why we just don't, even if it's not explosive, just run the ball. Let's just try and steal the will of the team in front of us.
That's the tough part, Tony, is that to me is hard to make sense of a coach with this much experience and this much. He even knows, like we were talking about, this topic is supposed to be, is this must win for both teams? I think it's more so it's must get some of these certain weaknesses established and fixed by the time we get to the playoffs, more so than even winning at a certain point. Yeah, the Chargers need to win 1-2 more games. All 3 are winnable to lock their spot in the playoffs. But if you don't fix these certain things, like, it does not matter. The trip to the postseason is going to be very short when you go and see Buffalo. And that's going to be an issue for the Chargers, that they can't just expect J.K. Dobbins to come in and just fix. They need to establish the run, like you're saying. And it might be as much as going away from Gus Edwards being the primary back. And I love Gus Edwards. I think he still fulfills the role we need him to fulfill as smash mouth running back, but there's no playmaking ability there, and our offensive line isn't dominant enough to where they're just destroying our opponents every single play. We need a running back like J.K. Dobbins who makes some plays in the backfield, makes a guy miss here, makes a guy miss there, and that's what really has opened it up. The Chargers, we could talk about what the Chargers need to do in the offseason, all we want. We can say this is a must win. It doesn't matter if they don't figure out the rushing attack. And credit to you, you've been yelling it louder than me this entire time. I've been so nonchalant about the Chargers this year because I'm trying not to get too high and I'm trying not to get too low. It's really fucked with me in previous seasons and in my entire life, honestly. So I'm trying just to be like, hey, we're 8-6. I'm the Chargers fan in the meme you're seeing going around Twitter, looking out the window. Sun is shining. We're 8-6 with 2 fifth-round rookie cornerbacks and a wide receiver one that's a rookie and a right tackle that's a rookie. And it shouldn't be here in the first place. So all of our problems are happy problems to me right now.
So I want to disagree just a little bit on a couple of things you said. You don't get things fixed really on a short week, right? Like it's really just sort of survive. And you don't get things fixed in games that are must win. And it is a must win because of the team that you're playing against. You probably won't be able to catch them to get back in front of them. And it doesn't matter where you go, but you don't want to be in that potential 9-8 spot because the Colts have a good shot to win out and finish 9-8. And so you don't want to be in any sort of scenarios with them with strength of schedules or common opponents or whatever the tiebreakers are. So you want to put the Broncos in a, hey, we have a sweep on you guys in this scenario. And you're saying we don't think that the offensive line it can be dominant, Mike. We don't know because they won't just commit to it. That's the thing. Yeah. It's like you can't say whether something is definitive or not when you've never tried it once all season.
Well, that's what my roundabout point was. Sorry to cut you off. Is like it feels like to me it's a coach looking in the mirror and admitting to themselves that they cannot run the ball, and that to me is frightening because instead what they're doing is they're just putting our quarterback out there to get absolutely freaking wrecked right now. And whatever the game plan was versus the Bucs needs to just be thrown out the window. But like you're saying, it's a short week. At the same time, how much can you really change?
You can't. And I will say this, like Kamani Vidal, I didn't do like a snap count, but when I just was watching the All-22, Kamani was out there a lot more than Gus was. But he's out there in like pass blocking situations. And it's like, if he's going to be on the field and he's struggling with the pass blocking, let's run the ball a little bit more. We have all these. We have Matlock and Fisk, and they elevated Tomlinson last week. Like, you got a lot of big guys out there. Like, let's just, at least then we're eating clock. We're giving our defense a little bit more time to rest. Last week they had 0 time to rest in the second half. Bucs took advantage of it. They ran the ball. They were the aggressors. They took the shots when we had to come up, put an extra guy in the box to stop the run. So, Good on the Bucs. They won that game. I am going to take the Chargers in a close game at home. I got it 16-13. Not a super exciting game. My son is like, oh yeah, scoring. You know, he's fallen in love with football because of Madden, and that's the most un-Madden score ever as far as he's concerned. He'll show me games where he's like, I beat this team 85-20, and it's like, how is that even possible? But he'll be happy as long as the Bolts win. That's all that matters.
I'm hoping the Chargers build a lead in this one, Tony, and we're forcing Bo Nix to really be trying to come back, and he's going to make a mistake or two. That's something that I really thought was the key the last time we played them, and I was pretty confident that we were going to be able to jump out on their defense more than they expected. And the Pat Surtain injury helped with that a little bit. They need to do it again. We need to get that lead built up again early. That's the key to me, because right now, when it comes down to scoring with it all on the line, it's slim pickings for the Chargers offense the last month or so, or the last year, the last whole season, honestly.
Yeah, and Riley Moss looks like he practiced again, which is like another good player that they could have back out there in the secondary.
That's your lad coverage maybe too, because he's going to be inside more than Pat would be.
Yeah, it's the Broncos are a good team. I think both these teams are ahead of schedule. I just want to win. I just don't want to lose to the Broncos. I want to have the opportunity that a playoff spot could be clinched and have excitement to look look forward to in January there. Falcons fans got their wish, Mike, because in second down, they made the move to Michael Penix. Michael Penix was my second favorite quarterback in the draft. I was a little shocked when he went to the Falcons. We don't need to rehash all that because we are here, now, where they announced that Penix is there. And you could see on the face of Kirk Cousins in that post-game thing where, he was so frustrated and upset with how he played in that game. He had to be excited because they got the win, but he knew that, I got to go watch film with my team in this situation where I just didn't – it's just not there. And they're turning to the rookie, essentially a game behind the Buccaneers. Buccaneers have Dallas this week. The Falcons are back at home. They get the Giants. Penix, you're in for this, right? This is what you want.
Yeah, this is definitely what I want. I mean,
Good.
I wish that they would have just went a more traditional route of a transition quarterback. You know how most teams do it. They get Sam Darnold to JJ McCarthy, or you could list 100 of these situations, and in 100 of them, they don't pay the transition quarterback $100 million guaranteed, Tony. All 100 situations. So they could have done it a lot less painful. And Kirk Cousins is still going to get freaking paid, dude. And it's unfortunate because when you're out there and you're looking at a play, it seems like he's kind of lost it. And he almost needs to change his whole entire speed that his body can go at, because his brain is still thinking that he can still make some of these tight window throws that he can't make anymore. And I don't know if it's the Achilles injury that's really taking that aging effect to this level or what it is, but he just does not have the same power in his throws, but he has the same confidence. And that's why he's throwing a bunch of pick sixes on out routes that he can't get the ball out far enough. That's why he's throwing a bunch of balls down the field. He thinks he's got a guy open. By the time the ball gets there, he's covered. So he hasn't got enough power on his throw. He's not getting the ball there quick enough through the air. And DBs in the NFL can cover 22 yards while the freaking ball is in the air. So guys aren't as open anymore because Kirk Cousins' arm strength just isn't quite the same. And we saw this in a similar situation with a very good quarterback in the NFL that a lot of people know named Lamar Jackson in the middle of the season, a team that was a 500 team with Joe Flacco, kind of looking for that spark to take their offense, especially to the next level, plugged in Lamar Jackson, squeaked into the playoffs and got a playoff game that rookie season for Lamar. So maybe was the Falcons' plan all along. I highly doubt it. I think they expected Michael Penix to sit the full season and maybe even another season based off of the way they set this up for Kirk Cousins. But the Falcons have nothing to lose at this point. They're falling out of the race. It looks like the Buccaneers are heating up as hot as an NFC team can get right now. They're looking freaking scary. The Buccaneers and Rams, those wild card matchups will probably have any division winners sweating going into round one. I think that Atlanta has nothing to lose. So that's basically where they're at here. And Kirk Cousins, it sucks that this is the way his time in Atlanta is coming to an end, and it's an absolute failure. If he wants to keep playing, I'm sure a team will pay him to come in and be a transition quarterback, and the Falcons will be paying him. So congratulations, Kirk. Get some more chains and have some more kids, buddy.
So I would say this, without rehashing all of what happened in the offseason, I think it was probably more of a scenario in where they didn't really think they were going to like Michael Penix as much as they thought they were. The scouting department,
yeah.
They locked up a guy that they wanted to be the franchise quarterback in this transition. And if you think about it, got him on a pretty good deal based on maybe amounts of guarantees. They'll be able to get out of this. As far as the Cousins thing, I do think that it can be a Russell Wilson situation where it's if he is just outright cut or whatever and the Falcons are going to eat the money, somebody's going to give him $3 million, $5 million to come in and compete or be the bridge quarterback. Because when I was pouring through a list of all the teams that are going to need quarterbacks, it's essentially like playing musical chairs with way too many chairs. If you just looked around, you're the music stops and then all these teams are sitting down and it's just there's just still open seats. I don't know. I fucked up my own analogy. Basically what I'm saying is too many teams need quarterbacks and there's just not enough there. It's he'll have a spot to continue to work. Part of the reason why I didn't pick the Falcons to win the division was like when you get an older quarterback and he's transitioning and you have an injury and you get there and there's a lot of questions about like coordinators at like just it all isn't it's just tough to deal with. It's tough to make it work. Like remember how high I was on Matt Ryan going to the Colts? And then you see that and it's like I thought that was going to be way better than it was, and it just wasn't there. Like I thought it was going to be closer to what Phillip did, what he was able to do when he got there, and it wasn't even in the ballpark of what that was. So I didn't feel like getting burned twice. Went with the Bucs. As far as Michael Penix, I am all in, Mike. Remember I told you about the number 8 seed team where I upset in the fantasy playoffs? Guess who's got an injured Herbert and a injured Mahomes and picked up Michael Penix Jr. and is starting
in the playoffs. First game of his career. Go ahead, kid.
I'm all in because I want to watch the game. Like I really am gonna sit down and like take this one in and root. And I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is. I think Michael Penix is going to have a great first game against a team that's like tailor-made, because this is the spot where you go in, you're at home, team's going to be fired up, the offense is maybe going to try some things it hasn't been trying. The one thing that I do hope they use is like he's kind of sneaky athletic a little bit, not like really a runner. Let's get him moving a little bit, and let's see if we can have some success. But I'm all in. I think the Falcons are going to potentially win out, and Michael Penix season, I'm in. What?
What about the Bucs, Tony?
The Bucs are winning out too. The Bucs are still winning the division. I'm just saying, like, the kid's gonna go on a nice little 3-game run here. That's all I'm saying.
Who do they play? Who do they play the next 3 games?
Oh, I knew you were gonna do this. I'm ill prepared for this.
You knew I was gonna do this because I don't ever believe in rookie quarterbacks just stepping in and balling out the first day. I
miss their optimism. Okay, let's see here.
Also, there's another dynamic here, Tony, that people. I mean, I was always in the scout team offense because I fucking sucked. But
here we go. They got one tough game. One.
I know these guys are supposed to be professional football players, and this isn't supposed to be a thing. But switching to a left-handed quarterback is a thing, and it's going to throw Drake London off. It's going to throw Ray McLeod off. It's going to throw everyone off just a little bit. It's going to take some time at practice, take some time in games to get used to it. It's slightly different timing, and also he can make certain throws certain throws are different from different plays. Like his blind spots are different than Kirk Cousins. So it's going to be an adjustment. So we got Giants, Commanders, Panthers.
Yeah. And here's the difference it's going to be, Mike, is that Penix is throwing 7 different kinds of smoke. These guys,
you could be right.
Left-handed. It's that these balls are coming. They're coming out hot. Come on, a little sizzle on them. He's bringing like a fajita.
You could be right. You could be right.
Falcons fans, you're watching
the opposite way. I don't know. It's like going to Australia. It messes with football players, Tony.
I totally I'm going to disagree. The only thing it's going to throw off is Drake London getting into the end zone multiple times, because I also have him in a couple of fantasy matchups.
He's still making plays, man. And you watch him play, if he gets the right quarterback, there's something there for sure.
You know what I hope happens? I hope that I hope Kyle Pitts has like 212 yards and like 9 catches for a touchdown. And they're like,
everyone draft him in fantasy next year.
Like, we have to re-sign Pitts. Like they're all going 100% in. Most of the Falcons fans I've talked to have been like, this guy has been a complete disappointment. I can't wait for him to be gone. I just want him to go nuts, and then hear Falcons fans just light up the internet with.
It's a good opportunity. They are messing up and going back to Drew Lock. They're just going back and forth, but you should be sticking with DeVito if you want to win.
I don't think either.
The Giants don't want to win. What am I saying?
Oh, I don't think either of them are healthy enough to compete at any high level. Speaking of health, as we move into third down here. I would say it was a really great game, a really epic game. Kind of not nearly as close as I thought it was based on the score. So I didn't watch the game live because it was on during the Chargers game last week. And when I came back and I watched it, I really felt like Buffalo kind of handled them more so than I thought they did. The onside kick has been discussed enough. Was, in my estimation, not great. Would have given my defense another shot before I tried something like that. But just sort of the fallout from this game, Mike brought up a really good point. He's like, this is a Super Bowl matchup that we would both really love to see. And I think a lot of fans would. I mean, obviously, if you're in Detroit and Buffalo. But I think just the average NFL fan would be excited to like talk shit with their boys and bet on this game and get together. Like, this game would have a ton of juice. Dan Campbell for a week there. Josh Allen's having fun. Matt Collins, like walking down in whatever it is, Mardi Gras Boulevard in New Orleans, barefoot.
Yeah.
But Mike brought up the point. What's a bigger concern for the team to not make it? Is it the Lions' injuries or is it the Buffalo Bills' defense? I'm going to let Mike go first, and then I'm going to respond to which one you think is a bigger concern.
I agree with you, by the way. I really was rooting for this kind of Super Bowl matchup, and I still am to an extent, but there's big problems for Buffalo. They're freaking massive problems when, especially taking into effect that they're trying to get into a bad weather game and they're trying to get into a battle and a war and all this stuff, and they're going to need to be able to stop the run and stop the play action. It's just, you can't give up 30 points, so you definitely can't give up 40 points week after week in the playoffs and get through it. And then also, like, it's just setting up. Like, this is the team to go after KC. I truly feel it this year. Like, Buffalo can get over that hump if they can play that perfect game, but they also are kind of setting themselves up for the defense to completely fail them with 30 seconds left to go in the freaking game against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship, which is what worries me a lot to even bring this up to this point. But it was already too far in Detroit, and it's a way bigger problem with the Lions' injuries than it is the Bills' defense. The Bills' defense has played good at points this year, at least. They can go back and go, hey, how can we find some of that? They beat the Chiefs this year, the only team to take down KC. The Lions are just falling apart. They're not going to be the Detroit Lions anymore. They're going to be the Detroit B Lions, the B team. That's what we're getting. David Montgomery goes down now. He's done for the season. Carlton Davis, I don't think anyone really that's a casual football fan knows very much about Carlton Davis. He has helped that secondary tremendously this year, and he's now potentially out for the season. Annalee McNeil out for the season, who's kind of like the last man standing on the D-line at this point. Like, now Zadarius Smith, who's a guy from the Cleveland Browns, another B-Lion. Like, it's their backup team that they brought in here to try and play like the Detroit Lions that we've seen all season. And I don't think it's possible. And every time I've seen a team get this ravaged with injuries, and even when they've kept winning, you've kind of seen like it's coming, and there's cracks in the ship, and eventually they're going to run out of gas. And it's gotten to a point now where they're one injury away from there being regular season problems too, I think. Not even just looking into the postseason, because it's gotten so thin where now, God forbid, you lose a select handful of maybe 3 or 4 or 5 players. That's it for me. Like, pack it up at that point.
So I am going to say that the bigger concern for me, and it's kind of like cheating a little bit, but the bigger concern for me is the Buffalo Bills defense, because I don't think that they're going to get a home playoff game. I think that the Chiefs are going to be able to find a way to maintain, to keep home field advantage. So in my scenario of what I'm picking is worse is that this Buffalo defense is going to have to go on the road against the Chiefs team that I think will be pretty well rested, healthy, going to have time to prepare for a Buffalo Bills team, going to get a warm-up game. It's just a bad scenario where, like, you're telling me that there's going to be opportunities for Andy Reid to get multiple weeks to game plan for that defense. And then I know that both these games by the Bills were indoors where they gave up like 90 points or whatever it was in the past 2 weeks. But it's like, and that game at KC will be cold and awful weather. So scoring like that is probably unlikely. But I still just think that you're going to give Patrick Mahomes an opportunity to play against a defense that's like that. It's just not going to work. As for the Lions side, They need to get this win against Detroit, and they're going to get home playoff game, at least one, maybe two, maybe three, depending if they can outlast the Eagles to the end line here. But like, I really like the energy of Dan Campbell and the home field that the Lions fans have brought. Like, I really think that that's turned into something. Did they run into the MVP of the league last week? Yeah, they did. And that sucks. Like, it doesn't matter how good your fan base is. Sometimes you just run into that guy he's a generational, that kind of dude. And that's the kind of game that he had. I just think that when you get to the playoffs, your defense has to be there. And I think both of the defenses are kind of bad. One is due to injuries, one is due to injuries and personnel and all that stuff. But I'm just going to take the team that I have. Who would you rather have rallying next man up, Mike, than Dan Campbell? You don't think that he's in there just coming up with just...
I honestly, a lot of people, Tony.
What? Are you kidding me?
Dan Campbell's a freaking lunatic, and it continues to work, but at a certain point, like I'm saying, like you're playing with 30 replaced players at this point now, and some of them are some of your star players. They're gonna need to make the big play on Cooper Kupp when you draw the Rams in that second round matchup, or the Buccaneers are probably going to win their division. They'll have a wild card game against somebody. Maybe it's them. Maybe one of those two teams get upset. And now without Aleem McNeil, without some of these other guys they've lost on the defensive line, Josh Jacobs is coming to Detroit. They're going to run the freaking ball like crazy. Like the Lions, I think the bye week, like you're saying, is a huge key in this. The Bills aren't going to get the bye week probably, and the Lions are probably going to get the bye week unless it gets worse. That is a key thing, but I just think that they are on upset alert with a lot of their first round matchups, or second round, but their first playoff game matchups.
So let me put together one last scenario for you before we get into our picks against the spread. Is that if the Lions don't get home field advantage, they need the Vikings to get home field advantage. And so that way, if the Vikings end up with the Eagles in that scenario, then maybe they can take out the Eagles, and the Lions would still get a domed playoff game. Because the real problem is, if you're telling me that the Lions are going to be down 30 players from their initial roster, and they have to go on the road to play a really good Philadelphia team outdoors, I think that season just ends terribly for them. Like, I think it ends up in just a beatdown city in Philadelphia outdoors in late January. Like, that wouldn't be good at all. So maybe the Vikings get it, and maybe they
I'm looking at it here right now. The way it's set up, it would be Rams, Vikings, Packers, Bucks, Eagles, Commanders. I think the Eagles would win. I think that Packers Bucks game would be tough to call, but I'll probably lean towards Tampa at home there. And then I know that you're really high on the Vikings, Tony. I think the Rams would beat the Vikings at home as well, which would set up in round 2. They're playing LA or Green Bay. And I know that they've beat those teams in the recent past, but this is not, like I said, it's not the same Lions that beat those teams. And it's just, they're going to be well-coached teams coming in with great rosters, and the Lions better be ready defensively because it could be like this Bills game.
Does Dan Campbell have 7 more rah-rah speeches in him?
I just don't want him to get desperate and go for onside kicks for no reason, because it's 10 points or 7-point lead. It's not that big of a lead, Dan. We're not even that desperate yet.
So we talked about this off show, where I was saying that, like, the things that I love about the Detroit Lions are the things that I hate about the Detroit Lions.
Well, the things that are going to ruin a Super Bowl caliber team. He doesn't just it's like there's like a big red panic button that's flashing. It's getting bigger. And he knows he's not allowed to touch it. But the more and more bigger that button gets, the less he can resist just hitting it as hard as he can. And then he hits it. He does something absolutely stupid. Everyone cooks him for it. He goes another 10 weeks without doing something dumb until that big moment again. And then here it is, that big red button sitting in front of him.
He's like there's a scene in this movie that my kids used to watch where the guy it's like King Louis in Madagascar, this Penguins movie. He's like, can I push the button now? I want to push the button now. Can I push the button now? I want to push the button. I want to push the button. Let me push the button. Here we go.
Be NFC title game. It's gonna be 4th and 7. And he's gonna go for it for no reason. That's what's gonna happen.
King Julian. I'm sorry for the millions of people watching this. Is like this guy calling King Louis. King Julian. Got it. Gonna push the button now. Let's go to 4th down. Getting our picks in here. Last week, I was 3-2 against the spread. Mike was 2-3. Mike falls to 18-13. I am 32-28 on the season, and this. So I'm gonna go first again. We'll make this a little bit quicker. Last week, we kind of drug it out a little bit longer than I would have liked to. Show's still doing good. We're still doing good. My first pick is going to be this. At the beginning of the week, when they thought that Carson Wentz was the starter, that like it looked like he was going to be there, the Chiefs were plus 1.5. When I wrote this down, I now cannot find this game to be bet on because we don't know the status of Patrick Mahomes. So I have the Chiefs at home plus 1.5, and I don't care if Carson Wentz starts or not. I like the defensive line of the Kansas City Chiefs to be able to cause a lot of problems outdoors for the Texans on the road. Then I'm going to go to Seattle. Again, I picked against them last week when they played the Packers. I got another NFC team coming in. Geno's beat up. I like the Vikings on the road minus 2.5. Last week, I picked in the spread against the Eagles, but I picked them in the game. They crushed the Steelers without getting into that too much. I like them to go on the road to Washington and be able to win by 3. I got the Eagles minus 3. Niners, Dolphins. I've seen this floating anywhere between like Dolphins are favorites, Dolphins are underdogs, but I found it at a pick'em. I'm going to take the Dolphins at home. I don't know why I'm doing this. Like Mike did it last week, and I was like, Mike, why are you picking the Dolphins? I'm going to pick the Dolphins this week at home. There's something going on with just how everything has just been happening for the Niners this year, and it's I said that a couple weeks ago, and then they smacked the Bears. And then I'm going to go to the Bucs because what I watched was extremely impressive, everything they did, and I think that over the next 5 weeks, Liam Cohen is going to like end up coaching his way into the Jaguars offensive coordinator, the same way Dave Canales ended up with the Panthers. There was a lot to like from what I saw in that game. Bucs minus 3.5. So my picks are Chiefs at home plus 1.5, Vikings on the road minus 2.5, Eagles on the road minus 3, Dolphins at home and a pick'em, and the Bucs on the road minus 3.5. Mike, are you going to get back on the winning ways this week? What do you got for the people?
Of course, just like the Chargers, it's all about how you respond, Tony. When you fall, you have to get back up. I'm going to get back up this week. I have 2 I agree with you on, so I'll just go ahead and rehash those first. I also have Philly minus 3.5. Commanders are heating up again. Worries me a little bit with this pick. This could be a little bit of a upset watch game, a little bit of a trap game for Philly too. Feeling themselves too much. Good Commanders team puts up some crazy point or something out of nowhere. But I'm going to trust Philly to win it. I think that there is a tier gap in the NFC, and you see it a little bit in this game. Interesting to see what happens because if Philly gets the 2 seed, not the 1 seed, this is a round 1 matchup. Very high potential. This will be the round 1 matchup. So that'll be fun. So, but I'm taking Philly also, Tony. Minus 3.5 is what I have. What'd you have? 3.5? 3?
I have it at minus 3. I think that you might have just looked at these. Yeah, it's fine. I would have counted it there anyways. Yeah.
Give you the push if they freaking if they get a field goal. Then the other one I agree with you on was the Bucs minus 4. I think the Bucs showed last week against the best defense statistically in the NFL that their offense is even heating up at another level, and they're daring anyone to play man coverage. Cowboys lost Trayvon Diggs for the season again. It seems like they've lost Micah Parsons' spirit for the season. So I think the Bucs could put up some points in this game and definitely win by more than 4 points. This is the spread that that I had. And then the other one I was going to go with here is I'm going to, like I said last week, riding the angry, red hot, pissed off horse with his tail on fire. Joe Burrow just has a different fire in his eyes. He needs to beat the Browns by 7.5 points. Vegas doesn't think that we're going to believe in the Bengals enough to beat the Browns, who are now going to their third or fourth quarterback of the season by 7.5 points. I'm taking the Bengals to continue it. Like, he still looked pissed off, up 17 points in the fourth quarter. He still looked mad that some mistake was happening or play calling wasn't perfect or something was going wrong. To me, Joe Burrow wants to win every single game by 30 points, so I'm probably going to take him to win every game by 30 points the rest of the season. And then my other two here, people called me crazy for this bet on Thanksgiving, and I said everything I said about the Lions, and I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I don't think the Bears win the game outright once again, but I'm gonna call it being a 4 or a 3-point game, and the Bears sneakily cover against the Lions for the second time this season. Another 27-23, another 30-24 would even get it for me at the 6.5 here. And then I have to get in on this. The Raiders ruining everything.
Yes.
In a pick'em game against Mac Jones, who throws a pick six to Jack Jones. Mac Jones, pick six to Jack Jones. The game ends 12-10 because they miss an extra point, or miss a 2-point conversion. Like, it's just this weird, bad, terrible score, and they win off that pick six, Tony. The Raiders send the Jaguars towards the first overall pick, towards the second overall pick, towards wherever this is going to end up. But I believe this one win for the Raiders, which would cover right away because it's 0.5 point spread, would move them back to like fifth. So I'll be rooting for the Raiders for the first time this weekend. Although I would love to see Jamarcus Russell 2.0 in number 2 next season. Kind of a win-win scenario for us. Whether they draft the bust or they move back and they just continue their agony to the next season of tanking. Like, if they don't get a quarterback this offseason, they're going in the next season tanking.
I personally just want I just want the frantic messages from Joe, right? Where he's just showing me all the Raiders fans that they're like losing their shit. It's like, it doesn't matter. You guys pick first, you mess it up. You guys pick second, you mess it up. Who gives a shit where you pick? Why are you guys all so angry about everything?
Keep me so level with the Chargers is just I just have to look a little bit eastward, and I just feel so much better.
Yeah, we all know it would fall apart. We all know. We all root.
Oh, I'll go them all in order here, Tony. Cincy -7.5 against the Browns. Philly -3.5 in Washington. Bears +6.5 versus the Lions. The Raiders -0.5 point versus the Jaguars, and the Bucks -4 in Dallas. 5-0. Right there.
Sounds like a 5-0 week to me, especially a couple of those there. As we go into fifth down, Mike kind of already talked about the fake game of the week that I have, right, which is for like the first overall pick, Jaguars and the Raiders right there. I do think that there is something that's, there's something interesting about whether or not these two teams and what they would do. Like, what would the Jaguars, before we get into the actual real game of the week, if you're the Jaguars, what do you do if you have the first overall pick? Like, are you just like highest bidder, come and get it, like what the Bears did a couple years ago?
That's exactly what I would do, Tony. I was about to say that. I would trade it to the Raiders. I would trade it to the Giants. I would trade it to anyone. And then I would just move back and continue to work on my team because they seem like they're going to back T-Law. And the Bears were in a different situation where, like, the Justin Fields topic had been a thing the year before. This was now the second year where they're in the first overall pick position, having to pass on it for Justin Fields. You can't ask the team to do it twice like that. I think that the Jaguars continue to focus on building the defense, and I'm so disappointed in the Doug Peterson thing that it's like hard to justify him staying there. Whatever they do with that as well, the Jaguars can start to get back on the right track with the package that they can get for that spot.
Here's the thing that pisses me off the most about the Doug Peterson thing. It's the highlight of his Jacksonville career. Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson is the second half against the fucking Chargers. Like, why does that have to be the only bright spot of their time together when I backed it and I was like, dude, Doug Peterson's a good coach and Trevor Lawrence is a good quarterback and this is going to work out. And then you go back and you look at it and it's like the one shining moment is that moment that like was devastating to us. So it pisses me off. But let's talk about the actual real game of the week here for week 16. And that is Pittsburgh trying to hang on to the division lead over Baltimore, and they have to go to Baltimore this time. And I know that all the records lean towards Mike Tomlin and his matchup against Lamar Jackson. It's like I had the numbers, but I didn't write them down. It's pretty favorable to him. And there's just something about this Pittsburgh offense that does not look – they don't even look remotely dangerous without George Pickens. Like, it's just hard to watch. Like, what I watched against the Eagles, there was a point where it looked like they were going in to tie the game, and then there's the Russell Wilson pitch to Najee Harris, who had, I think, one of his worst games as a pro. I mean, and he's playing against a good defense, but, like, that fumble right there, it killed him. Like, that pretty much was the game right there. Like, if they don't do that, even if they get a field goal, it's a 4-point game with, over a quarter to play or whatever. And after that, it was good night. So, but for the AFC North, this is essentially what this is right here. Like who do you got? Who do you like? Do you think the Steelers have a chance without George Pickens? Because it doesn't look like he's playing again.
No, I don't want to throw my pick out there right away, but it's going to be a good game still. I think even another key past George Pickens, Tony, and it's a big deal. We've seen the effects on the offense over the last couple of weeks. Is one, the Ravens defense has been a lot better, like the last month or so. I think even in the last game they played, they held this Steelers offense down and just couldn't get in the end zone on the other side of the ball. And that's something that the Ravens have been kind of up and down with Lamar Jackson as a whole, but they've been better this season, I think. I think they put up 35, 40 points like half of the games at this point. And I don't think they're going to get held to 16 points again. And then I think the other big thing, other than that key right there and how well the Ravens defense has been playing and the offense, is the fact that TJ Watt's also going to be out there on a bum ankle. And that worries me a lot because now you're asking TJ Watt, someone who has no off switch, go out there and play on a sprained ankle, which has been confirmed, against Lamar Jackson. We're just piling it all together, and it's all going the Ravens' way other than home field advantage. But the experience this team has going into Pittsburgh, I mean, you're pretty comfortable there, Tony. I'm taking the Ravens to win. I think the Ravens take control of the division. I think Lamar is just like everyone on Twitter is going to be demanding Lamar Jackson gets his third MVP after this game. That's what I feel like is going to happen.
I really thought you were going for the old school WWE, like switch it at the last second, elbow off the top rope.
Jets, Tony. This isn't the Jets. I'm not switching up on the Ravens ever. Right? Lamar could be, 35-year-old Lamar Jackson, and I'm still going to be backing him. This is not the Jets type of backing here.
I'll probably try and talk you out of that one if we're still hanging. But it is the game of the week because there's something about Mike Tomlin that finds a way to rally. And I do think this game is close based on that, where it's like, hey, we're going to do time of possession. They're going to steal something, it feels like, in the the special teams game, whether it's a punt block or a return or whatever it is. Like, they're going to find a way to fake punt. They're going to get something out of the teams that'll be there. And then it'll be like, like a lot of people don't know the defensive line for the Steelers, but it is a lot more than just TJ Watt. Like, the average fan knows TJ, but Keanu Benton is an absolute monster in the middle of that defense. They still have him and Cam Hayward and Nick Herbig. Well, he might not be as good against the run. He's still very explosive off the edge, and I think he can set. Highsmith is out there. I think the linebackers are good. Obviously, you aren't better without TJ Watt, but it's like they don't lose him, and then it's like, oh, what's happening? You know, like certain teams, they lose their edge rusher, and you're like, good luck getting after the quarterback. I still think they're going to be able to cause problems and confusion and keep the game close, but at home, Lamar Jackson, it feels like the Ravens. It feels like the Ravens' victory. I just think it would be very disappointing for the Ravens, and as for us as fans, because I think like our backup plan to beat the Chiefs, Mike,
is the
Ravens. The Chargers can't do it, and the Bills can't do it. We need the Ravens. Like that's what we feel most comfortable. Like
they're running out of options quickly.
Yeah. I don't have much faith in the Steelers going to Kansas City and beating the Chiefs. I don't want to see that shit.
Confident. I was so confident in the Ravens.
Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, like sign me up for anything else.
Yikes. Man, another big mismatch, Tony, that could be the decider in this game, crazy enough, is the kicking mismatch. We have someone on one side who has absolutely lost it, completely gone. Like, when we talk about Kirk Cousins just falling off a cliff, Justin Tucker has went from GOAT to not in the league. Like in what year? It doesn't make any sense. And on the other side of the ball, Chris Boswell could go out there on one leg with a blindfold and still drill every single kick in a blizzard. Doesn't matter. This dude is unbelievable. Chris Boswell's the new Justin Tucker of the league.
Boswell kicked a knuckleball. So this was my topic. This was my point last week, Mike, where I said the reason I thought Pittsburgh would keep it close is because they had the advantage. And then Jake Elliott's out there just like, hey, Tony, I heard what you said on the internet, you idiot. You know, like I could still kick. And he's banging him in there. But like Boswell's situation is there's one where I'm like, oh shit, Boswell's gonna miss, and it just like knuckles right back down the center. And I was like, he's got voodoo foot or something.
That's he's just the magnetic poles theory. Don't get me started on that.
It was he is a really good kicker. He is a weapon for them, but there's something about the way the offense doesn't almost have the same swagger. Like as many dumb penalties as George Pickens gets out there by blocking somebody all the way into the stands and then fist fighting them, it's like, dude, you not only manhandled this person in front of his family, but then you slapped him too. Like Broderick Jones has got to run over and be like, hey, how many times we got to talk about this, bro? Stop slapping people in the face. But I think that gives them a different kind of energy that they play with. And they're like, oh shit, we got to make up for a couple extra explosive plays to combat the amount of silly penalties that George Pickens will get. None of which I don't think it'll be enough. Steelers. The thing that's going to happen with the Steelers is you're saying the internet is going to be like Lamar Jackson MVP. I think the internet for the Steelers is going to be even louder going, Tomlin needs to go, bro. He needs to go. They do it every year. Steelers fans do it every year. I don't care if we have winning seasons. I don't care if we have. It's like, okay.
The Lamar for MVP thing's already happening, Tony. That's the thing, is that they're already like comparing the stats and the all-purpose touchdowns and yards and all that kind of stuff. And everything already leans in Lamar's favor except for the win total and the division and all that kind of stuff. Like I think only 2 MVPs ever have won the award and not been a part of a division-winning team. All this stuff that is like made Josh Allen the favorite all crumbles if Lamar wins the AFC North and gets them to a similar win total. And then who do you pick? Can we do co-MVPs again? I remember they did that once, didn't they?
They have. It was Favre and Barry Sanders were co-MVPs.
That's impossible.
Josh Allen is the answer.
Yeah, I think so too. He's carrying his team more, right? He doesn't have Derrick Henry.
But okay, we're gonna wrap this show up. This game of the week, we're both picking the Ravens here. We'll go out on this lovely little note as we go out. I do think that there's a little bit of this like, okay, hey, AJ Brown, are you happy? Now, can we go back to feeding Saquon Barkley this week and just go out here and dominate? And Saquon has 212 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, when I'm eliminated from the playoffs, yeah.
100%. That's part of the narrative that you can craft for your TikTok views. But I do think that like they get back to it and they go, you know what? We're going to go to Washington this week and we're going to just – Saquon Barkley is going to go nuts. Like that's what's going to happen in this game.
The safe bet any week.
and then Saquon gets back into the mix here. But I mean, Lamar Jackson's not that far off. We're a couple weeks away from where we're going to revisit what we had our midseason MVP awards, right? At the end of the year, we'll get that done. I don't believe that we're going to be doing a Christmas show, right? Too much stuff going on next Wednesday. I do. I have 3 kids that are going to be jacked about what they're opening up on Christmas. So I hope everybody who does watch this, who's made it this far into the show, comment and say Merry Christmas, Uncle T. I don't think anybody's making it that far into the show, but if they do, comment that. Hope everybody has a good, safe Merry Christmas wherever you're going. You get there safely, and while you're there, you have an enjoyable time with your family, with your friends. Mike, what do you need to tell the people before we get out of here?
Like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you guys want some fresh gear, I wore my neon Chargers gear today, so I didn't rock the 5th down gear.
How about this?
5th down shot.
This is how much I believe in Dan Campbell right here.
Yeah, right there. We even got Dan Campbell design. Maybe I shouldn't be talking so much shit about him. And I'll try not to. But 5th down shop is right here if you guys just want to check it out.
Look at the coffee. Look at him. Look at how confident he is, just on the sidelines, ready to give a speech.
Yeah.
No my guy, Danny Cams.
Or Dan Campbell, yeah. But
Merry
yeah, we'll see you guys. Bolt up, by the way.
Christmas. Gotta have it, Charlie.